I've been watching The Mandalorian, and my thoughts so far, honestly, it's the best thing I've seen to come out of Disney's Star Wars so far. It's obviously going for a different tone than the Star Wars movies that people are used to, since it focuses on bounty hunter akin to Boba Fett, but at the same time, it probably feels more like it belongs in the Star Wars universe than any of Disney's actual Star Wars movies. It stars a Mandalorian named Din Djarin, and right off the bat, they establish that he's a hardened badass as he goes into a bar and ends up laying the smackdown. Naturally, he's there to collect a wanted man for a bounty and threatens him to get him to come willingly. The guy ends up using the old "I have to pee" excuse to go snooping around, finding statues of other bounties frozen in carbonite. I've heard some criticism of this due to the Empire not initially knowing if it could be used to bring in people alive or not, but they obviously confirmed with Han that it could, and it's probably been refined since then. If it was a prequel, I could understand, but this is a sequel to the original trilogy, so it makes sense. Of course, the Mandalorian appears behind him as he's casually talking and throws him in to get frozen himself just to show what a stone-cold mercenary he is. After collecting his bounty, he then goes on to get a much bigger bounty from his job provider of the guild Karga in Remnants of the Empire, where he takes down 2 Blurg aliens before meeting an interesting fellow named Quill. He likes to say, "I have spoken," quite a lot. It's a cheeky little running gag. In exchange for one of the Blurgs he downed, he teaches Djarin how to mount the other one. Djarin is on his way and ends up teaming up with a pretty funny bounty droid named IG-11 that seems way too overeager to self-terminate whenever anything goes wrong.
I will initiate self-destruct.
After a pretty nice firefight, including a Gatling laser gun, the bounty turns out to be a baby form of Yoda's species. It's stated to be 50 years old, which kind of makes sense given Yoda was centuries old. The droid wants to terminate the baby, and Mr. Space Clint shoots the droid first. Let's hope someone doesn't come by later and edit the droid to shoot first. There's no shame in being a faster draw. As a first episode, I think it does a pretty damn good job establishing things. The pacing could be better, I admit, but it establishes a nice amount of action and badass moments, which Star Wars has always excelled at. You focus on that and the world building, and some memeable quotes don't hurt either, and you've got a good Star Wars experience.
I have spoken.
Episode 2 starts to establish Djarin's relationship with Yoda's baby, which I'm going to call it from now on, since it's clearly not Yoda and baby of Yoda's species is a mouthful, so I'm going to headcanon that it's Yoda's baby.
In the Dagobah, I am, because willing to pay for child support, I am not.
It starts out with him protecting the little guy from bandits, and then later goes on to have his ship parts pillaged by Jawas, whom he gives chase to. After blasting a few of them and trying to probe their sandcrawler, he gets on the roof and is promptly gunned down. With Quill's help, Djarin reluctantly negotiates with a Jawa to acquire an egg from a nasty mudhorn creature in exchange for his ship parts back. Now, this is probably my one actual complaint with The Mandalorian so far. They have Yoda's baby use the Force to stop it dead in its tracks. I understand that its species is in tune with the Force and it's supposed to be 50 years old, but it could be seen as a bit Deus Ex Machina for it to be able to drive back a creature that large. Now, it's nowhere near as bad as Rey because it has a reason for knowing the Force, and Djarin's the one who does the final kill, so it's a nitpick in the grand scheme of things. After bringing back the very furry egg to the Jawas, they happily crack it open and start eating it. It looks like it's all yolk, and they must really love the flavor. Djarin offers Quill a cut of the reward and then an offer to join it, but is turned down both times, so he just pays his thanks and leaves, thus ending episode 2. Obviously, the episode was done to further establish that the Mandalorian has a connection to little Yoda's baby. Some may call it filler, but I'll always approve of a chance to get more action and world building, especially the developing bond between those two. This really comes to a head in Episode 3 as the Mandalorian turns in the infant and collects his reward, which he uses to rebuild his suit with his people. He turns down having a mudhorn marked into the new suit since he didn't defeat it alone. After Djarin has a brief fight with a fellow Mandalorian who protests the Imperial forged metal, the female blacksmith mentions something about a singing bird's weapon that she can make with leftover materials. Djarin soon starts questioning what they plan to do with the infant, and being left in the dark, decides to take matters into his own hands and get the infant back. This is all the while trying to get past stormtroopers both stealthily and aggressively. He ends up being surrounded by them, and we see that the singing birds is a lot of micro-missiles that he uses to blast them all with. With infant in hand, he begins to make his escape, but is then confronted by Karga, who scolds him for breaking the code of the guild. Djarin then begins to fight them and is aided by other Mandalorians, allowing him to get away with the infant. This was perhaps one of the more predictable things in the series so far. Episode 2 did really establish those two as getting really close. It's not like he was going to hand it over to the Imperial Remnant to be probably enslaved or annihilated, but it's still a pretty nice story. A fan artist compared it to Death Stranding with Sam and his little BB, which is honestly a pretty fitting comparison to their relationship. The infant using the Force in such a powerful way stands as my only actual complaint so far, unless you really want to get into the nitpicky. The action and world building are quite good so far, and it has some funny little dialogue moments, and it really wants me to see the next episode every time it ends just so I can see what happens next. This is the kind of thing Disney needs to focus on more often with Star Wars, the raw action and the characters. When they try to make a story to push for something, it ends up hurting as a result. These kinds of things have to feel organic, and you should always go for writing a good story above all else. As of right now, I can say The Mandalorian is definitely that. It probably isn't going to save Star Wars if Rise of Skywalker completely tanks, but at least it shows there are remnants of this era of the franchise that care about giving the fans what they actually want.
Make a good story with compelling characters, intense action, and some memeable quotes, and you will achieve success. I have spoken.
This has been my review of The Mandalorian. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.
Unaware of your presence, I advise slicing the controls to this door and entering quietly via a door slice maneuver.